Hi, my name is Riley Allen, and this is my review of Season 1, Episode 1 of Once Upon a Time, titled Pilot. Because it's the pilot episode, and they couldn't figure out, they didn't have the budget to give this one a name apparently. So Once Upon a Time is a show which is made by It aired on ABC, so I think it was made by ABC Studios. And since ABC is owned by Disney, it could use the Disney properties that later came out, which were exclusively Disney Pixar. But of course, they could always use the fairy tale characters, because most of the characters that Disney used, I believe, are like public domain, like Snow White, Cinderella. All these are folklore characters, or of some sorts. So, Once Upon a Time is about all these characters. If they lived in the same time, they all knew each other. And it's basically a mix between, I think, the Brothers Grimm, the original version, which are always darker, and the Disney versions. Like, they're not quite as dark as some of the original versions I've read, but they're not exactly hugs and kisses like the Disney ones. So there's two kind of slots to the episodes in the format. There's the main episode, which takes place in present time, and there's the past, which take place, in the past. And it's intervening scenes, like you have a good chunk of the episode which is set in the present, then a flashback. The flashbacks take place in this place called the Enchanted Forest, and that's where all the characters lived. While the present is in Storybrooke, Maine, which is in our world, apparently. Or supposed to be. Like our world from their world. In their world, yeah. So we start off in we'll start with the flashback parts. Snow White, Charming is hauling it to Snow White, but of course he doesn't make it. She sees her in this glass coffin, which is made by the dwarves. He tells the dwarves to lift the glass coffin up so he can say goodbye, and kisses her. Again, it'll never not be weird to me that he kisses a corpse. Although in this case, I guess I think this is better than the Disney one, because in the Disney one, they hardly knew each other, but we later learn on that the Snow White and Charming in this universe had a storied, so to say, history together. The next scene, so they profess their love for each other, and the next scene is their wedding, which is crashed by Regina. Regina is the name of the evil queen, and she basically threatens them, saying that she's going to ruin their happy endings. We cut to a scene where Snow and Charming are basically... Snow's worrying about this, but Charming is not. He's being kind of blasé about it, I suppose. But Snow is the right amount of worried, saying, she once cursed me for, gave me a poison apple for being prettier than her. Which, again, we didn't see the poison apple scene, but again, if it's anything like the Disney version, it's your own fault for accepting food from strangers, especially one that looked like that old hag. Okay. So they go to Rumpelstiltskin, who's, we later learn, is someone called the Dark One. I don't know if it's in this episode or later on, but we do learn that later on. He is the Dark One. He's like this scaly, grubby, creature-looking dude. He's locked in a cell. And he's also a prophet, so to say, or seer. And he correctly deduces that the child they're carrying is a girl. He agrees to tell Snow and Charming what Regina's planning in return for the name. So he tells her that she's planning a curse to send them to a land without magic, where there will be no happy endings. No one will remember anything. So wiping the memories of everybody, giving them unhappy, boring lives, I guess. No magic, I guess, which is okay. And as they're walking away, they're not going to give him the name, but Rumpelstiltskin's not having that and says he needs the name. And he gets kind of demonic with it. I need the name. So eventually Snow White says it's Emma. First things first, I did look up the name of Rumpelstiltskin's actor, Robert Carlyle. Give this man, I don't know if this man won anything from this show, but just from this one scene alone, great actor. Great actor. I think he's the best actor in the series that I've seen. Regina's actor is pretty decent as well. I'm kind of iffy on Snow and Charming. Emma's actor is also pretty good, and I'm not really gonna haggle or debate too hard about Henry's actor, because he's a child actor, and it's always hit and miss. So the next scene in the flashback timeline is basically a war council where it's a who's who of who's the fairy tale characters, because we got Granny and Little Red Riding Hood. We got several of the dwarves. We have Pinocchio, Geppetto, Jiminy Cricket. Then we got the Blue Fairy, which is, I guess, the fairy godmother coming in. So they bring in this tree, and she says, that this will be the key to helping Emma escape. She says that it's a magical tree which can send people to another land, I guess, like a portal. And she says the caveat is it can only take one. So Snow White while she's pregnant. She enlists Geppetto and Pinocchio to build like a cupboard or cabinet, whatever. And they do it. Also, unfortunately, Emma has the worst timing and decides that she wants to be born not right then and there. There's a scene skip or two, I believe. So she's fucking that up. So Snow goes into labor and gives birth, and like they're asking Doc, the dwarf, to do something, and I'm just sitting here thinking, what if Doc would have been like, it'd have been hilarious if Doc would have been like, whoa, my name's Doc, but, I mean, it's just a nickname, I'm not actually a doctor. Or if he'd have been like, yeah, you see, you need a lady, you need a lady doctor. I'm a dentist, I work with teeth. I don't know what to tell you. I'm on the opposite end of this body spectrum. I don't know what to do. But of course, Emma's born, and Charming takes her to the cupboard. He fights off some of Regina's guards, which are there because, of course, the curses started to be enacted. So they fight. Charming and the guards. He defeats most of them, but one of them does manage to wound him somewhat mortally. It would have been mortally if the curse didn't take effect. Emma is sent into the cupboard. And side note, Charming might have screwed his daughter off more than Regina could have, because we later find out that she was abandoned on the side of the road, which means it dumped her in the woods by the side of the road. Someone found her, of course, but what if they didn't? A long 28 years, gonna be longer because the baby's dead from the elements. He took a real gamble on it, I guess. He was already in a lose-lose situation. He couldn't lose anymore, I guess. Snow manages to make it to Charming's body, and then Regina comes in to mock her, I guess. And that's the end of the Enchanted Forest timeline flashbacks. For the regular timeline, we see Emma going on a date. She's now 28. It's her birthday. You know, the day that Rumpelstiltskin said she'd come back to break the curse and start the final battle. Because he said that. He'd said that she would be the savior. She'd come back on her 28th birthday and the final battle would begin. So she's on a date, but it's not actually really a date. She's a bail bonds person, and she's here to collect the dude who skipped his bail, I guess, or whatever. So she comes to her apartment, banner year, great birthday. She was working on it. So, she gets her cupcake, blows it, and then knockety, it's Henry, her son. We saw him a bit earlier. He was on the bus reading these fantasy stories about what we just watched, the Enchanted Forest bits. He makes it to her apartment, and he proceeds to just be all over there. Like, straight up introducing himself, being like, wants the confirmation that, yeah, he's her birth son out of the way. She proceeds to go in the bathroom to get herself a moment, and this kid proceeds to make himself completely at home. Like, dude, you don't know this woman. Why are you rummaging around in her fridge, drinking her juice? Come on, man, who taught you manners? He eventually convinces her not to call the police and bring him home herself, which I guess, okay. So he attempts to tell her about the storybook characters because he has a storybook about all the characters from the Enchanted Forest and the knowledge about the curse. But of course, Emma doesn't believe him, which is fair. If I had a 11-year-old, 10-year-old telling me that this weird town in Maine, this town is filled with storybook characters, I'm not gonna believe them, okay? Until I'm given definite, in front of my eyes proof, I'm not believing that shit. So, she meets first Archie. Side note, everyone in Storybook, we meet Jiminy Cricket, who's now a therapist, named Archie. He's Henry's therapist. Henry is Emma's biological son, but he was adopted by Regina the Evil Queen, which, of course, starts the funnest family tree ever because he's now the stepbrother of his grandmother. Also, I don't know the ages, but I'm pretty sure Emma's now older than her parents, or at least the same age. We learn that Snow White's new name is Mary Margaret Blanchard. We learn that Grumpy, the dwarf's name, is Leroy. We meet Geppetto. I don't know if we hear his name, but I did look it up. Apparently his name is Marco, I think. Marco? So they meet Archie, and he tells him where he lives with the mayor. Because Regina, of course, made herself the mayor. If she can't be the queen, she's going to be the highest authority in this town. Come on now. And Regina is worried. And from this episode, I really do believe that Regina... The love that Regina has for her son is not in doubt. Not once during this episode did I believe that she didn't love her son. Maybe she's not the greatest at expressing it. And I do think that Henry definitely needs therapy, but not for the storybook thing, but because we learn he's the only one aging. Like, later on, if nobody's aging but him, that means he went from, like, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. What is he, in fifth grade? Maybe fourth, fifth? All these people did not age but him. He went through all these teachers, all these children who stayed in the same grade. Maybe he assumed something was fishy. Maybe he assumed, I'm the only smart kid. Everybody idiots. But, by the third time where everybody failed, you got to be like, And all the people who failed the first time are still where they are. You got to be like, No, wait a minute. Hold on. Something ain't right. I mean, kids aren't the smartest, but I feel like They're not that stupid. Of course he's going to put it together. And he did, somewhat. Of course, the storybook, for some reason, helped him. We learned the storybook was given to him by Mary Margaret Blanchard. And also, we learned that he stole her credit card to basically find Emma. Also, Emma tries to leave, but she sees a wolf and is knocked in the road and crashes. And she wakes up in the jail cell? Why is she waking up at a jail cell? She was in a car crash. Why is she not waking up at a hospital? I mean, I'm confused. Were there paramedics on the scene? They said, yeah, she good. She good. And she just woke up at a jail cell? I feel... I don't think this... wouldn't they want to check for, like, concussions, maybe? Anyway, the sheriff tries to blame it on the apple cider that Regina gave Emma, but she says the wolf, but the sheriff doesn't really believe about the wolf. And this is where we find out Henry's gone missing again. We meet Mary Margaret Blanchard, the teacher, and that's where we find out, about she was the one who gave him the storybook. She was the one who gave him... No, she was the one that he stole the credit card from. And she and Emma get into a conversation about why he gave her the storybook, and she basically says that, he was lonely. He couldn't make friends that well. Of course he couldn't. He didn't want to make friends. I wouldn't want to make friends if I knew they were all going to age out, like in 2 years. I'd outage them. And she kind of indirectly insults her by, stating that he was wondering, all orphans wonder, or something like that, why their parents gave him up. Which, is funny, I guess, considering we know that this woman is Emma's mother who gave her up. So, yeah. It's fun. She kind of waves it off. Emma waves it off a bit, and then she finds out that Henry has this play castle like thing where he plays. So she goes there, and she and Henry have a talk where he says he understands why she gave him up for adoption, to give him his best life. And then he brings up the storybook characters again by saying that's why Snow and Charming gave her up. And of course, he asked her to stay for 1 week, which she doesn't agree to at the moment. And she kind of admits, that she had it hard due to being... She kind of starts saying about... I guess she was kind of offended that Henry says he has a hard life. Which, side note, Emma does not get to judge anything about Henry just yet, because at this point in time, Regina could be putting on a very good front. There could be things that going on in that house that she does not know about, that Henry did not tell her. She does not get... I think she got offended because Henry's living in the mayor's house with the mayor. So he's kind of got a silver spoon in his mouth, so to say. Well, she was abandoned at the side of the road, went through foster care, got adopted, but got sent back after they had a bio kid, and, just had a shit life. But at the same time, you can't really put... I feel like she was taking it out on him unfairly, because while we know she doesn't know what's going on in that house, he might have a very good reason why she doesn't want to go there. Maybe he has a very good reason why he believes that Regina doesn't love him. And I feel like this was her letting her emotions kind of get the better of her, maybe a bit. Which I suppose is fair. Or not really, because she was screaming at a 10-year-old, screaming this to a 10-year-old, be like, So she eventually does bring him home, and Regina, since, first meeting her, I guess, kind of getting territorial. which I guess, okay, is fair. And this is where she slaps her down, being like, now Regina had a fair point. Emma signed off all her parental rights. Regina adopted Henry at 3 weeks old. She changed every diaper, soothed every fever, calmed every tantrum. She has this point. She has this point. She could have made that point and then left it, but she proceeded to threaten Emma. And I feel like that is the reason that Emma stayed. I feel like the threatening maybe kind of snapped something in her, like, something fishy's going on. So she agreed to give Henry his week. She got a room at the local inn, and that's where we meet Rumpelstiltskin. The inn is run by Granny and Red Riding Hood. And we also met Leroy, who is grumpy while he was in a cell. I'm guessing he was being drunk and disorderly. That's the kind of character he seems like, so that's kind of maybe what I think he was arrested for. And Marco was there. I don't know why Marco was there. Was he or who's Geppetto? He's Geppetto. Marco's Geppetto. Geppetto was there, and I don't know why he was there. Was he bailing out Leroy? Are they drinking buddies? Anyway, so Rumpelstiltskin comes in, hears Emma's name, says Emma in a weird way, and proceeds to take the rent money from Granny. And we learn that Rumpelstiltskin, or Mr. Gold, basically owns the town. And right as the episode ends, the clock, which Henry says has never ticked in his entire life, starts working, which means time in Storybrooke has officially resumed. Overall, this episode, I think, in my opinion, was a pretty good setup. I liked the Enchanted Forest elements. I liked the modern elements of the episode. I loved Rumpelstiltskin and the way his actors seemed to play him differently from regular dude to whatever the hell that gremlin thing was in the cell. I like Henry. I think he's kind of, pushy in a sense, but like he's a 10-year-old, but I kind of find it endearing in a sense. I kind of find him endearing type. I don't hate Regina, the evil queen. Honestly, I was kind of with her some of this episode. Like, yeah, she was making good points. Emma did sign off her rights, I mean, she is the mother. She does have the right to be worried. Her kid has gone missing twice in the last week. Yeah. I'd probably be on her side if I didn't know about the evil queen aspect. So, overall, I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next video.